This video introduces the notion of an object, and we're going to see how we can use objects that come built into Python in our programs. What is an object? It's a construct that groups together one or more data values, and those values are known as the attributes of the object, with one or more functions that allow us to do things with those data values. And those functions are known as the methods of the object. Now, we've actually already been working with objects in the form of strings, because every string is an object. And down here I've tried to show you what this string might look like in memory. Now this is just a simplified model, and it may not be 100% accurate, but the idea is that for a particular string, like the string hello, we're going to have some attributes, and in this case it's things like the characters that make up the string, the length of the string, etc. Now I'm not sure that these are the actual attributes in a string object. I've never looked to see how string objects are implemented. But the idea is there are going to be some attributes in there. You can think of them like variables that belong to the string. And then also inside that string object are functions called methods that we can use to operate on the string. And what makes a function a method is that it is inside an object. It belongs to an object. And different strings will each get their own object. So here's another string object, this time for the string by. You can see we have its characters, we have its length, and we have, again, these functions that belong to the string. Now we haven't used these functions yet, these methods. So let's look at how to do that next. So because the methods are inside the object, we're going to have to tell Python where to find them, and we're going to do that using dot notation. So for example, let's say we have a string Perry, and we assign it to the variable name. So here's what that string object might look like in memory. One of the methods available inside every string object is a method called upper, and here's what it looks like when we call it. So we have to start by having the variable for the object, in this case the variable name, then we have the dot, which is just a period, and then we have the method name, followed by whatever parameters are needed. In this case, there's no parameters that we need to pass in, but we still need the parentheses, just like when we make a function call to a function with no parameters. So it's similar to calling a function, but we have to prepend the object's variable, and we do that using dot notation. And because a method is inside the object, it's able to access all of the attributes of the object. And that's why we don't have to pass anything in here. Everything we need is inside the string object. So let's see what happens when we call this method. You can see I've entered the assignment statement for the variable name, and then here's the line where I'm actually calling the upper method, and we're taking the return value of that method call and assigning it to the variable all caps. So I go ahead and do that, and then you'll see that all caps is a new string in which all of the lowercase letters in the string have been replaced by uppercase letters. So that's what upper does. Now, there's a bunch of other methods that we can also use with strings. This is just a partial list over here. If I say name.lower, you can see the capital P gets replaced by a lowercase p. Now it's important to realize here we're not changing the original string. The original string is still the same. We're creating a new string in which all of the letters are lowercase. And you'll notice over here when I've listed it, I've just said s dot. So s can be any string variable that you want. In this case, we're using the variable name. The find method, if I say name.find, and then I give it the string r, it's going to give me the index of the first occurrence of that substring in the string represented by name. So in this case, the first r is this one. It has an index of 2, and that's why find is returning 2 for that particular substring. Now you can also use something other than a single character substring, so I could say something like er, and it would tell me 1, because that's where that substring begins, at position 1. If you give it something that is not found, you're going to get back -1 as the index. The count method tells me how many times a given substring occurs in the string. So x occurs 0 times, but if I do this with r, I get 2 because there are 2 r's in Perry. And then the replace method allows me to generate a new string in which some target from the original string, let's say r, gets replaced with some new string. So here I could use n, and you can see we get a new string in which the r's are replaced with n's. One really useful string method is a method called split that allows me to take a string and break it into a list of substrings. So let's assume that my string is this name, Martin Luther King. If I then say name.split with no inputs, no parameters, what I'm going to get back is this list of substrings. And you can see the first element is the first name, second element is the second name, third element is the third name. And so it's a nice way of breaking up a string into logical substrings. And this would be even more useful if I assigned the result of the method call to a variable, because then I could use the variable with indexing to get the components. Now, by default, spaces are what are used to break up the string, to figure out where the splits should occur. Now, it turns out it's not just spaces, it's also tabs and new lines. Those are all considered white space characters. But it's possible to use a different separator character. So let's say I have a date where the logical separator is a slash. If I want to break it up, when I call split, I'm just going to pass in the string containing a single slash, and so it'll know that I want to split the string on those slash characters. And what I'm going to get back is this list, and you'll notice I have the month number, I have its string, then I have a string for the day number, and a string for the year.